Hey guys, it's Ren. I've been posting a lot of these 4x5 marker sketches, so I thought I would take you through the inking process, which is really just tracing. I hate to admit it, but it's tracing. But the fact of the matter, the reality is, inks are gonna actually help make the image pop a little bit more. This week I've been focusing mostly on villains. So here we have Sinestro. I've already done all the line art. And let's go ahead and get started with the inking. I'll be rotating the page, so just bear with me. I'm using a Micron 03 pen. And just get right into it. Soundtrack today is provided by Sandra Collins. She's one of my favorite DJs. John Digweed is another, if you're into that kind of thing. I don't know if you guys have any questions, feel free to post them on the page. But for now, it's just testing it out, seeing how I like videotaping myself doing the work. Give you guys a little bit of a sneak peek into the process, how I work. Now, there's no real rhyme or reason to how I'm laying my inks. I'm just kind of feeling it through. I know some professional inkers, one of my favorites, Brian Calloway, used to do my inks, and he always told me you want to do the outline first, but this is just a sketch, so you know, we're gonna do whatever we feel like doing. Typically when inking, going from thick to thin lines, if you're curious about that. I've always thought of it like back in school when I was taught how to lay down inks and putting in thick to thin lines. Depending upon where your light source is at, you want it to, if an ant is going to walk over the edge, that's going to typically be a pretty thick line. Everybody has their own rules. I personally just kind of feel it out because, as you can see, there's not really much of a defining light source. It's kind of coming from the top. You get like this halo here. It's not a lot of shadow, but there's a shadow under here, here, and here. So it's typically coming from the top. And I generally like to ink that way just because it's simpler, especially for these sketches. So when it comes to laying down like thick to thin lines, I'm pretty sure I know exactly where it's gonna go. More complex, adding more light sources, that kind of changes things up a bit. Then you got all these refractive lights coming in back and forth, but for right now, because it's just black and white right now, I don't have to really worry about it. But when I start to lay down the color, the light source could change depending upon tone, flesh colors, and whatnot. So doing that, I might have to, when coloring or laying down the marker colors, I might have to add a different line weight or make the values darker or lighter depending upon which way I go with it. But having your basic light source being from the top, you can pretty much leave it really open to what you want it to be. Sinestro being a DC hero. Anybody watching Supergirl? Does anybody like it? I have mixed feelings on it, but I'm really enjoying the Flash. I like the Flash a lot. Okay, just FYI, you see how it's like thin right here, but thick right here? That's because as the light comes down, it's going to be bright. This light's going to be pretty thin, but as it gets to the lower half, it's going to get a little bit darker. The last thing that you want to do, though, is to make the whole thing super bold and black. I know some artists do it, and they can pull it off really well, but if you don't know how to do it well, it comes off kind of weird. Flattens out the entire image. And then it just doesn't look as good. You know, now that I think about it, Sinestro looks a lot like John Waters. Huh. Never seen them both in the same room before, so I don't know. Sink in those eyes a little bit. A little darker around the edges. Or bolder. The line weights. Typically villains tend to have that grimace, like right in the eyeballs. Well, it's not really a grimace, but a darkness is the word I was looking for, grimace. Their eyeballs are smiling and squinting at you. Right underneath here at the nose, it's going to be nice and a thick line. You bring out that defining edge. Singer's bringing the wicked right now. Get those increased folds. His forehead. Make him look as sinister as possible. Down some of that. He's got this wicked mustache. He's got kind of this old-timey mustache. Like, if he had the curl, it would make him almost Western. Old Western villain. Which is comical all the time. Likes to twirl his mustache. I'm fairly certain that was kind of the idea when this character was created. Because villains tend to, you know, twirl their mustaches. Otherwise, how would you know they were winning? Right? If you guys are wondering why I'm twirling the page, it just helps me get that angle that I'm looking for. There's a lot of hatch marks in here that I'm not entirely sure I'm going to keep. I really liked that set. That was actually pretty good. Sandra, I'm talking about the music. Sorry. These little X's that I'm marking usually are little notes for inkers to put in your blacks right there. Just fill it with black. But it's a shorthand is what it is, just in case you were wondering. I think we're there. Now what I want to do is switch over to my brush pen. It's by Pentel. It's this little awesome brush tip. I love this thing. It's amazing. It could lay down inks like wicked fast. The only thing with this is you just gotta be careful, like especially if you plan on staying in the lines, because the interesting thing about this is because it's a brush tip, it can be very fine, but it can be very finicky. Like this is dropping like a lot of ink. Take some of that out. Feels like it's pooling a little bit, so, and I don't want that. Because once it pools, then it just starts moving around and it drips. You put your finger in the wrong place at the wrong time, and now you got an ink pad with fingerprints, or an art piece with fingerprints all over it. And that's no bueno. No one likes that. Okay. Usually right after I'm done with the inks, I'll let it dry. And then what I'll do is I'll take a kneaded eraser and take out these lead lines. And the cool thing about the kneaded eraser is that it won't pick up as much ink. I mean, it'll pick up some, but not a whole lot. I mean, if you have to do touch-ups on your inks a little bit later, that's fine, but for the most part, you're good to go. See right there? That's ink splatter. And that comes from pooling ink. Crap. But you know what? I can fix that when I color it. But I think I'm gonna leave it right there for right now. Let these inks dry. We'll lay down some color. Thanks for hanging, and I hope you guys liked the video, and I'll try it out again some other time. Okay, bye.